Welcome back to Apex Sci-Fi. In the galaxy, war is usually a matter of numbers. If you have 10 times the soldiers, you win. If you have 100 times the soldiers, the enemy surrenders. The Krellan Legion lived by this math. They were a swarm species, lightweight, fast, and numbering in the billions. They didn't need heavy armor because they simply overwhelmed their enemies with a carpet of blades and bodies. When they reached the planet Gorgon V, they expected the human colony to fold. The planet was a high-gravity rock, a place of jagged mountains and crushing pressure. Most species could barely walk here, but for the humans it was home. The Krellan had pushed the human forces back to a single point, Bastion Ridge. It was a narrow pass, only 50 meters wide, flanked by 2,000-foot cliffs. Behind that ridge lay the civilian evacuation port. There are only 300 of them, the Krellan overlord chattered, looking at the scanners. 300 mammals against my legion of 30,000. They do not even have heavy artillery. They are standing there with shields. Shields? It is an insult. Crush them. Trample them. Leave nothing but red dust. The overlord understood numbers. He did not understand density. Colonel Marcus, the anvil, stone stood at the center of the human line. He wasn't looking at a tactical screen. He was looking at the horizon, where a literal wave of black chitin and steel was rushing toward them. Lock it down, boys. Stone's voice roared, reinforced by his suit's external speakers. Plant your feet. Remember where you're from. We're from Earth. We're the species the ground couldn't crush. These bugs? They're just extra weight. The 300 soldiers of the 3rd Iron G Battalion slammed their shields together. These weren't energy shields. They were 4-inch thick slabs of depleted uranium and tungsten. On a normal planet, a human couldn't even lift them. But on this high-G world, with their dense bones and reinforced power armor servos, the humans didn't just carry the shields, they anchored them. The Krellan hit the human line like a high-speed train hitting a mountain. The sound was a sickening crunch of chitin against metal. The first 1,000 aliens didn't even get to swing their blades. They were crushed by the momentum of their own comrades pushing from behind against an immovable object. Hold! Stone bellowed as the pressure increased. The Krellan were light. They were built for low-gravity flight and speed. To them, a human was like a pillar of solid lead. They tried to push, they tried to climb, but the humans stood like statues. Then the humans started hitting back. Short thrusts. Keep the line. From between the shields, 3-meter-long power spears surged out. Every thrust didn't just kill one alien, it punched through 3. The humans weren't fighting with finesse. They were fighting with the raw, rhythmic power of a piston. Thrust. Reset. Thrust. Reset. The pile of alien corpses began to grow. Within an hour, a literal wall of dead Krellan sat 5 feet high in front of the human line. The aliens had to climb over their own dead just to get hit by a human shield. Why do they not break? The overlord screamed from his command ship. Fire the disruptors. Use the swarm cannons. The Krellan opened fire with high-velocity needles. The projectiles sparked off the human armor and shields. Because the humans were so physically dense and their armor so heavy, the kinetic impact didn't even make them stumble. They just leaned into the wind and held the line. At the 4-hour mark, the Krellan tried a suicide charge. 10,000 warriors moved at once, a literal mountain of bodies trying to brute force the pass. The human line buckled. One soldier went down to a knee, his armor servos screaming under the weight of 50 aliens piling onto him. Vanguard! Support the gap! Stone yelled. He stepped into the breach himself. He didn't use a spear. He used a massive 6-foot warhammer. With one swing, he cleared a 10-meter arc, the physical force of the blow shattering alien carapaces and sending limbs flying like shrapnel. The humans didn't move. They didn't retreat. They didn't even swear. They just breathed, deep, heavy breaths of high-gravity air that would have collapsed an alien's lungs. By sunset, the Krellan Legion had reached its breaking point. They had lost 15,000 warriors. The pass was so choked with blue blood and black chitin that the survivors were slipping and sliding, unable to get a foothold. The swarm, for the first time in its history, felt terror. They looked at the 300 humans. The black iron armor was covered in blue gore. The shields were dented and scorched. But the line was exactly where it had been 10 hours ago. Not an inch had been yielded. The Krellan turned and fled. They didn't just run from the ridge, they ran from the planet. Colonel Stone watched them go. He didn't cheer. He just signaled the at ease. The humans unlocked their shields, the metal groaning as the tension was released. Report, Stone rasped, his voice dry from the dust. 0 casualties, sir, the sergeant replied, wiping blue ichor from his visor. 16 suits need servo repairs. 3 guys have bruised ribs. And we're out of water. The Galactic Council's final report on the last stand at Bastion Ridge became the definitive text on human defensive warfare. The human species possesses a unique anchor reflex. Due to their high-gravity origins, they do not see a superior force as a reason to retreat, but as a challenge to their stability. In a narrow terrain, their physical density and psychological stubbornness create a zero-yield scenario. Do not attempt to push a human. You will only break your own arms. Humanity had proven the ultimate physical HFY truth. You can bring an army, you can bring a swarm, and you can bring a god. But if 300 humans decide that a piece of ground belongs to them, it is no longer a battlefield. It is a wall. And the wall never falls. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. They stood. We conquered. If you enjoyed this final stand of the Iron G, hit that like button. Comment below. If you had to hold a ridge with 300 people, who are the 3 friends you'd want by your side? Subscribe for our next saga, The Mercenaries of Soul. The line is held. The ridge is ours.